So as we can see then, I've got enough to double up this area here, which is going to be the biggest and most conspicuous area. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut that down to size then, and I'm going to double that up. Right folks, so we're back again on another day, and as you can see I'm using some leftover heavy duty weed membrane from a previous job. In fact, that was the membrane which actually went underneath the man cave to keep the weeds at bay. So typically then with weed membrane you just need a single layer, or at least that's what the manufacturer suggests. However, in my experience, after a short while weeds do eventually come through, so I just like to double mine up basically. So here I'm just trimming it to size and around the timber to make sure that we have a nice close fit to minimise the likelihood of any weeds coming through. So here then I've got some leftover roofing underlay from a previous job, and I'm going to be using this as an improvised weed barrier. Now I know it's not conventional, but the fact is I've got it there, I'm not using it, and there's no point in buying new materials unnecessarily when this will do exactly the same job. So to do this job then, I ordered 3 jumbo bags. I ordered 2 of the MOT 1 stone and also 1 bag of sharp sand. Each one of these bags is about 850 kilos, and the stone was about spot on actually, the 2 bags, but I did end up needing a little bit more of the sharp sand. And I'll cost all this up a bit later. So this is what you call your sub base then, and it ranges from dust to some smaller size rocks. Now the best thing to do in my opinion is to go to a builder's merchant, because if you go to a somewhere like Wicks for example, you will end up spending more money and you'll also have to pay for delivery. But my local building merchant basically did these a lot cheaper and also delivered free of charge. Now I do prefer using a spade or a shovel to move this stuff around. I found that if you do use a rake, it invariably means that all you're doing basically just shoveling the larger stones around. So here then I'm just backfilling the trenches which I dug when I fitted the timber borders, and this will make sure that the patio remains stable, and by doing this it will mean that there's good drainage and also it will increase the longevity of the timbers. So here I'm just damping down the surface then. You don't need to soak this stuff, you just need to damp it. That will keep the dust down and it will also help to compact the surface. So here again I'm using the Scheppach petrol compactor, 6.5 horsepower. So this is a light duty compactor which is brilliant for a job like this. Now I do have a number of projects to do, so basically I decided to buy this rather than hire it, and ultimately it's a hell of a lot cheaper to do it this way and far more efficient than hiring. not only does it save you money, it also gives you the flexibility of going back to the job and doing it when you have time to do it. I mean, this particular patio, I went back a few times and just fitted it in with work and other commitments. Now, I did this over a period of just over a week, and the cost of actually hiring a compactor would have significantly exceeded the cost of just buying the thing and using it as and when. And obviously once you've done this job, all you need to do is just clean it up, put it to one side, and it's ready for your next one. And if you buy something like this, you will actually make it pay after the first job. And as we can see, look, it's compacting this nicely, and having used this several times, I found that it tends to compact the surface by about an inch. Now, there's definitely a technique for using this, and initially I found myself just lugging the thing around, and it can be a little bit heavy, and it can be a little bit cumbersome to move around. However, after a while, the penny dropped, something clicked, and I realised that if I was to utilise the handle, then you can actually turn this thing around really easy with a minimum of effort and without any strain whatsoever, and you can turn it round in really small spaces. So here we go, look, all you need to do, use the handle, just fold it over, push it forward, and that will give you excellent leverage to move this thing around. It just gives you that much better control. So there we go, look, as you can see, that's an absolute piece of piss. There is virtually no effort required whatsoever to manoeuvre this thing around. And as we can see, look, you can move it around in the tightest of spaces without any strain whatsoever. Right, so that's the last compaction. So as far as I'm concerned, that aspect of it is now done. So I've just got to whack a load of sand on there basically. And then we can think about cleaning up the slabs and setting them in place. Right, so we're on the sand then, and one of the important things to note is the fact that this is sharp sand. It's not builder sand. Builder sand is used for making mortar and for rendering. This is the stuff you need. So initially then I bought a jumbo bag which weighs 800 to 850 kilos, and I thought this would be sufficient, but I did end up buying about another 4 or 5 bags of sharp sand just to finish the job off. So a couple of days later then, I'm setting some timber rails or battens in the sand, and basically I'm going to use this as a guide to level off the sand. I'm going to have one at the front, one at the back, and the one at the back nearer to the man cave is going to be slightly higher, and then I'm going to use a straight edge between the two just to level out the sand and compact it. So this will give us a very slight gradient or fall, which will enable water to shed. Now, to be honest with you, it's not really necessary on a job like this. If it was concrete, in other words, if it was a solid surface, then yeah, you definitely need to do that, and the gradient would need to fall away from the property. But given the fact that we've got soil underneath the sub base of stone and you've got sand on top of that, there's going to be absolutely no problem whatsoever with water draining away. So this is just being a little bit pedantic here. Even if I'd have made this completely flat, it wouldn't have been a problem regardless of what people say. But I'm just basically just doing it because I can, and I've got the time to do it. And also it's always good practice to do stuff like this, isn't it? Now I'm using timber which is left over from a previous job. They're actually roofing battens. They're about 1 inch thick and absolutely perfect for a job like this, incidentally. There is a little bit of warping to these, so you need to play around with them a little bit just to make sure you set them nice and flat. Some people do use plastic tubes. That's absolutely fine. It's another good option if you've got some knocking around. But I've got these laying around, so I decided to use these instead. So the other tools I'm using here then are a couple of spirit levels and also a plastic float which you use in plastering, particularly for rendering. This is really excellent tool just for flattening out and for compacting the surface of small areas. Lovely.
So you tell me where you want it to go. Yeah, far side?
Just in the middle, that's fine. Have you got any more left?
I can say you can get another barrel and then just scrape in the bottom.
Okay, that's fine, good. So bring that along too, mate, please.
Yep.
So as you can see, this piece of timber is a bit short really, isn't it? Could do with being a few inches longer. I do have an aluminium straight edge which is about 6 foot long, but the thing is, when I tried it, it did actually catch on the timber border, so I couldn't use it for this purpose. So we're just making do with what we've got, and it's not going to be a problem. So all we're doing then, basically just reducing the height and levelling it off between these two wooden battens. So we're just using a sawing action, and that gets rid of the excess on the top. So it does take a little bit of time to do this, and some people might say, well, why don't you just do it by eye and just sort of tamp it down if you're going to use a compactor? And the fact is that if you take a little bit of extra time and do it like this, then once you actually have the gradient you're looking for, or the level you're looking for, then when you use a compactor, it will maintain that level or that gradient. So yeah, it takes a little bit longer, but it's worth it in the end. For example,
Oh no, I can see now, yeah.
can you see there's a gentle
Yeah.
slope? It's not massive because it doesn't need to be, but nevertheless there is one there. So what we need to do now is just to fill in little pockets.
Yeah. Oh god.
That's it. And then just go back over stuff again. Watch yourself.
Yeah, it's all
And just try and flatten it out a little bit. So there are a couple of ways of doing this then. I decided just to work from the middle first, and I'm going to use this to work out on both the left and the right hand side once I've done this. A little bit more pressure down here. just to make sure I've got a definite slope on here. I mean, I can tell by eye that I've got one, but and also my arms aren't 5 foot long. Okay, so we've got a little bit more sand left than we thought initially. Obviously this hasn't been compacted yet, but if we have a look over here, look at the spirit level, you know, the bulb needs to be that way there, look, doesn't it? So that's pretty consistent, I think. So that needs to come down a bit. So as you can see, if you're going to be doing something like this on a regular basis, then it might be worth investing in one of these plastic floats. I've had this for a number of years, can't remember what it cost me, but you can do your own research on the net, can't you? Just to get an idea of current typical costs. But these are absolutely fantastic for doing something like this, look, and you know, they certainly make the job easier. Right, so the next thing to do then is just to damp the surface, and to be fair, I did make it a bit wetter than it needed to be, but in a situation like this you can just leave it for a while just to dry out and to soak up a little bit. I decided just to crack on with it basically. There was no major detriment, but you know, that option is available to you if you're worried about it. So the compactor's out again, and I'm going to go over this about half a dozen times, and as I mentioned previously, as you will see from the footage here, it does tend to compact it by about an inch. Now because the sand was a bit wet, as you can see when I go around the corners, it does leave some larger ridges, but from subsequent footage you will see that these ridges do disappear and we can get this nice and flat and compact. And you'll also notice that when I'm walking on the sand as I follow the compactor, it doesn't leave any footprints, so we know it's a nice, tight, sturdy surface. Okay folks, so look, I've gone over it with the compactor. As you can see, I've tried to get a little bit of a fall on it from highest at the back, getting slightly lower to the front, and also from left to right. I mean, there is a natural fall in the garden anyway, so I think it's going to be absolutely fine. But so that's as much as I'm going to do today. I just need to tidy up at the back there, okay, but you know, that's for another day. So the next step then is to get the Titan pressure washer and to start cleaning up these slabs. Now, it isn't necessary to have a pressure washer. I've done another video whereby basically I just had a stiff broom and some bleach and they came up an absolute treat. But now that I've got the pressure washer, obviously I will be utilising it and I'll be cleaning up these slabs, and I will of course video that, but it won't be part of this build here. Anyway, that's it for this afternoon. I'm going to have a tidy up and get myself a beer. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.